Friends, welcome in another episode of Dirty Air with Rodney Rodriguez. I'm so glad that you all are joining me, whether it be on YouTube or on a streaming platform, however it may be, RodneyRodriguezSports.com. Thank you for being a part of Dirty Air with Rodney Rodriguez, where we just like to sit around and we talk racing, we talk sports, we talk life, we talk all the different things. Just like to get us animated. If you would, on the YouTube channel, reach on up there and subscribe. Give me a like, give me a share. If you're checking it out as well, you see a QR code up at the top left-hand part of your screen. You could check out right there as well. And that takes you right to the Rodney Rodriguez Sports webpage where you can catch all kinds of really cool content, whether it be this or other racing programs or sports programming. So here we are with another week in the books. Actually, another NASCAR Cup season that has come and gone. And we are just post Phoenix, post crowning another champion, now a three-time champion of the NASCAR Cup Series, our man Joey Logano, driver of the Penske number 22 Ford. And everybody, everyone, the talk of the week, the talk of the I think has actually been the talk of the month, because this was even before we got to Phoenix. Is this point system is broken. The point system needs to be changed. We need to go back. We need to do all these different things, and everybody has ideas. Well, actually, let me paraphrase that. Everybody's, and when I say everybody, I'm talking consensus. I'm talking consensus of people seem to have decided that this playoff system, this win and you're in system, and so forth, is just not working. It's not any good. It needs to change. And that I really do think that there are ways to modify this. There really are. But we're going to take a few minutes right here, and we're going to have a conversation as to. I mean, look, since everybody has a show like this. Everybody podcasts, everybody live casts, everybody tweets, everybody posts on Facebook. So damn it, I'm going to give you my thoughts as well. And that's what we're going to do for the next few minutes here on Dirty Air. Here's my first point with this. The system has been in place, and you have always had rumblings of that the system isn't the best and the system needs to change. You've always had it, but you haven't quite had the outcry that we've had, or the NASCAR has had this season. Number one, this is a point system thing. I think this is really magnified nowadays, because the bigger problem that the Cup Series has right now, is that you have a car problem. That's really what it all comes down to right here. This is a race car that NASCAR has put out here for different reasons. We can say for cost-effective reasons, to try to make things a little more affordable for race teams, for even across the board. Everybody gets the same parts, and you can't go in there and do all of these different things. This car is not designed. I've said this so many different times, and people just don't want to hear me. This car isn't designed for a lot of what we're doing with it. This is a sports car, man. This is a car that, I mean, you look at it. I mean, we say the numbers push forward and all that. I mean, that's for the common fan to argue about where the sponsor should be placed and all that stuff. Look at this car. This is not an oval stock car. This is a sports car. This is a knockoff of the damn where SVG came from. That's what this is. People are like, oh my God, Shane Van Gisbergen's come over here and taken the world by storm. This is a car he's used to driving, for crying out loud. Putting these things on ovals, yeah, and I know you get in there and you start messing with camber and all of these different things, but the suspension, everything on this, the transmissions, all this isn't an oval type of. This isn't a NASCAR race car, and I can totally appreciate the logic behind the fact of doing this for financial conservation and so forth, to make this easier on teams and all that. But it was such a great buzz when the car came out, because you did have the playing field was much leveled. it seemed like a much leveled playing field. Well, the guys hadn't figured these cars out. I mean, these teams haven't figured these cars out. I mean, these are highly paid. Um, I mean, I want to say mechanics, and all of that. I mean, these guys. I mean, these are educated folks that are getting in here, tweaking these cars around, and they've gone and they've figured them out, and the cream rises to the top, just like it always does, like it always has. And when we get into talking about point systems and different things that aren't working, it's not. I mean, it's the car. I mean, it's the car is the issue. If you want to have an issue with something, the point system in and of itself has worked. I mean, you get the back and forth to go back to the 10 race chase format that you had in the past. Well, now you have a lot of folks that are the biggest advocates of it, but when it was in place, people hated it. And then you have the traditional crowd that wants to go back to the just run the 36 races and don't have any eliminations, don't have win and you're in, just accumulate points, and then at the end of the season the champion is a champion. But I'm here to tell you, for the new, now that you have five, count them, five TV partners that are going to be a part of this, when you do that in the last 4 to 5 races in a traditional point standing type of scenario, when those five into the season 3 to 4 races mean absolutely nothing, because the point leader is that far ahead. While we as traditional race fans can really appreciate the fact that Kyle Larson may be 345 points ahead, and all he has to do is finish 22nd at Martinsville and finish, I don't know, I'm just throwing out tracks, finish 14th at Phoenix, and then in the season finale at Homestead. Again, these are just tracks I'm throwing out. In the season finale, finished 21st. We can appreciate what he did, but I'm here to tell you, for the newer, more progressive, casual race fan, they're not going to tune in to watch Stroker Ace run out there in the middle of the pack for no real reason. There has to be a built-in intensity and a built-in drama to this that's going to get to satisfy these TV partners, people that are spending a lot of money on this product, and to have their name tied into this. So while those are all great, yeah, I mean, you got people all over the fence with those two different ideas about the 10 race chase and back to the 36 race, just like a full season thing. And I keep seeing the thing thrown around about, well, here's what the Winston Cup standings would have looked like, and yeah, you had a 5 point separation there at the end of that. But I mean, that's just not the system that we race in. That's just not the way. I mean, it gets so frustrating when I see that old point system where here's what the points actually look like. No, that's not what the points look like. What we just did, Joey Logano being being the Grand National champion, that's what the point system looks like, because that other thing doesn't exist. That's a pipe dream that people still like to live in. But to get into to kind of the consensus of really what I'm going to come at you with today here on Dirty Air is this. The point system, however it's built, however it's figured out, however it's reconfigured, and NASCAR has apparently said that there could be some modifications to it in 2025, slight modifications, with maybe thereafter something that changes a little more drastic. I can only assume that this is going to be just like everything else that NASCAR does, to where there's going to be little tweaks to it. And maybe there's going to be like the schedule. I mean, you remember the schedule where it was like, okay, we're going to make slight modifications to it, and we'll continue to alter it, and we'll kind of go at it in bits and pieces to where we'll modify it more the deeper that we get into it, kind of to soften the blow a little bit. The point system to me is all about because the fans, we fans, are the ones that are going to react, whether it be positively or usually negatively, to whatever happens. The point system so much is everything. Let me be actually more specific. Everything that happens in cup racing is more specific to who is the one that is involved in the situation. What we just witnessed, what Joey Logano and Team Penske just did. And I saw something where he was talking after the race there in the media center, and the question came up about the point system and all that, and he said, "Well, if the point system were different, perhaps we would have." There's no perhaps. We would have worked the system differently. And think about that. If the objective is right or wrong to go out there, you got to start every race. You got to remember that part. But that's what the charters are for. That's a whole different dirty air discussion. You get in there, you win, and you're in. If you win, you take care of that. Look at the 22 team performance throughout the year in the regular season. I'm not going to say it was subpar, but it was just not something that set the world on fire. But when it came down to playoff time, that's where it looked like this 22 team totally rebooted itself, came out. And I mean, the dude had 4 wins when it was all said and done. But people are acting like Joey Logano went out there and won a race in the playoffs and, won Phoenix and became the champion. It's pretty much the way folks are acting. And oh, by the way, that's been done before, not in the Cup Series. That's been done before. I don't quite remember the outcry of this. That's where it goes back to my point about it. It's all who is doing the action, what's going to magnify, intensify, or depending who it is, maybe not make it such a big issue. Let's kind of just hypothetically, for shits and grins, let's take this scenario a whole different direction. Let's say that we go into the season and we duplicate everything that Joey Logano, not the most popular driver in NASCAR, he's had issues with other folks, and he's booed at racetracks and different things, and people laugh at the way he talks, and whatever the case is, he's not the most popular guy. But let's say, just for examples, let's take that resume of Joey Logano and say that Kyle Larson does the same thing. We can flip the roles. Joey Logano wins all these races, is the runner-up for the regular season championship, and all of that, the domination that Kyle Larson had. And Kyle Larson kind of sleepwalks through the regular season, gets the win, gets into the playoffs, takes care of business, has weeks and weeks to prepare for Phoenix, and walks it off and wins the Cup championship. Do you honestly believe, and before you answer me and start yelling at your phone or your iPad or your computer, think about this before you answer me. Are you really, if you're upset with what we just saw with Logano, are you really going to be that upset that Kyle Larson has that same result? Or are you flying your number 5 flag high in the air, celebrating the second Cup championship for Kyle Larson? I am betting that most people, if they're going to be really, really honest, would say, well, I would be happy if Larson would have won himself a Cup championship that way. So I'm going to, it all comes back to who is performing the action of that. You've got a handful of drivers. Logano is still on that list. Denny Hamlin executes what Joey Logano just did, and we have upheaval. We have the system needs to be changed. Bubba Wallace pulls off this feat. Oh my God, the system needs to be changed. If you get the intent of this car, Michael McDowell pulls this off, still driving for Front Row Motorsports, pulls this off. McDowell, a popular driver, but driving for maybe not one of those Hendrick or whatever teams. The system needs to be changed. That's what happens with that. I mean, it's Chase Elliott pulls this off for Hendrick. Chase Elliott does what Joey Logano just did. Sound that fire bell or whatever they do over there in Georgia, because we got ourselves a Cup champion all over again for a second time. As I'm telling you, it all depends on who's executing the championship. That's the bigger part of it. To me, it's 2 issues with this. It's a car thing to where the car is overperforming. The car It's like if you go and you look at the different things that NASCAR does here, Goodyear is constantly coming with different tire compounds. They're doing different things to try to make the racing better at different venues, whether it be a mile and a half or a short track or whatever. The car's just a little too good to be doing it to underperform the way we want it to. We want to find deficiencies in this car that just don't exist. I mean, don't exist. I mean, it's a purpose-built racing machine. There's one problem with this car. There's one problem. I mean, seriously, looking at it realistically, as a racing person, I've watched racing for a lot of years, and I'm not talking about the fact that this car is producing lame races and apparently has put us in a horrible championship fight situation. Looking at it realistically, there's one problem with this car. These toe links suck. You got to get in there and fix that. Fix that issue. And that's what NASCAR needs to try to figure out. I don't know how you fix that with these suspension on these cars, but it's to me that's the problem with the car. That brings back into to the scenario about what do you do about the championship? I mean, I've seen different scenarios thrown around to where you go in and you make it a 3-race fight at the end of the year. I am pretty good with that to where it's like you get to the final 3 races and playoff points and stage breaks and all of these different things. All of that counts. You don't start dropping stuff and you just race this thing throughout the thing all the way to the end of the season. But this is where I've seen different tracks thrown around. I've heard to where obviously you keep Phoenix as a finale. I've heard Charlotte, being thrown in there, Martinsville, Las Vegas possibly is a place that you could do this, and maybe even with the finale making it a rotation, kind of like it is in different sports to where you go in and the site of the final race alternates, and I'll give you my thought on that here in just a minute. But with the playoff scenario, it's we sit and we watch college football at nauseum and get frustrated about playoff systems and BCS and different things like that and bowl systems, and that's exactly what NASCAR has put themselves in a position to do right here when you go in there to try to figure out a playoff system, because there's always going to be, back in the days of the 14 playoff, you're going to have 5 and 6 that are pissed off because they got left out. In the BCS, you're going to have the teams that are right on the cusp that are going to be left out. You look at the brand new college football playoff system right now this week that just came out, and you've got Georgia, which is probably the best team in college football still. They whooped my Longhorns right here in my own hometown, for crying out loud. I saw it with my own 4 eyes, that are not in the college football playoff system as it sits right now, November 14th, 2024. You've got SMU, which needs to be in that playoff that is being left out if it all ended right now. So that's where you get into playoff systems like that, to where you have different factors that are going to factor in like that, and then the human element that are going to allow themselves to be a part of that will affect that. And there's always going to be somebody that's left out, affected, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where I go to that argument with the NASCAR playoff. So the 3-team thing, yeah, I kind of like that. What I've always thought it kind of sucks is that you get to these scenarios to where, like with Phoenix, for example, being the finale. And look, Phoenix is a great racetrack. I mean, I have watched Phoenix for a lot of years. To me, Phoenix is not the most spectacular thing right now, but you know what Phoenix does that a lot of racetracks don't do is they sell the damn place out. So for folks that say that finale needs to be moved around, well, you need to go across the board and truly look at who is selling all of their seats and filling their stadium for races, because that's what it all comes down to, because that TV part is super important. You don't want to have gimmick camera angles to try to make the damn stands look full. I mean, you want to pan around there and you want to see that thing just as full as possible. And the Phoenix area over there does a really good job of embracing NASCAR on championship weekend and accommodating them and making this a really damn big deal. But here's my thought, if you were able to get into a 3-race playoff scenario, however you people say that, get in there. Yeah. Keep Phoenix. And this is where with my stupid idea, it gets to where, this may not work because of just of track availability and so forth. But you have that 3 race thing, and I'm going to use the example. And don't call me a homer because I'm in Texas. How about your 3 race, hypothetically? How about your 3 race season championship would be Martinsville, the 3rd race. 2nd race, I don't care. Phoenix, Las Vegas, Charlotte. No, not Charlotte, because not Charlotte. And then the finale in this case, big market, Texas Motor Speedway. You go there one time a year. Next year, you're going there one time a year. Texas Motor Speedway's schedule has shrunk, and they only have one event. Excuse me, because you have one going to Coda, All-Star Race. You flirted with that. You did that for a little bit, and it went somewhere else. How about you figure out a way to work the schedule to where it ends up somehow at a racetrack that only has one event? That way you can't go into like you heard where Hendrick had been working for months and months and months on Byron's setup for Phoenix. Could have fooled me. Logano, those guys, Penske, both of those, the 22 and the 12. So good at Phoenix. Showed up there. You could tell that they had their playbook in order because they got there and they were the class of the day. Set this thing up to where, and again, I'm not saying run the finale at Bowman Gray, run the finale at New Smyrna, run the finale at Five Flag Speedway, run the finale at Cordele. You ain't got to do all that. Use a damn NASCAR track, but use a track where they only go one time. Limit a little bit of that. Why would Texas be a good place in my scenario? Because number one, it's got the 2 different corners. The speeds, there's always complaining about whatever. And I think I think everybody wins in this because you get teams going to the racetrack for the only time of the season. Let everything be on the line. These teams are good enough to do this. These engineers and all these different things, these folks are good enough to have a scenario like this. You don't have to be babysat and spoon-fed. We're going to Phoenix. We were there in March. And that's, the other argument. Well, there's a big difference in between races. The weather changes and all this. Well, the weather changes, but the track don't change. Still the same damn configuration it was. I don't give a damn what month you go there. Do something like that. Get a little outrageous. The Texas thing, attendance has slipped. It's an SMI track. Hell, have the finale there. I guarantee you is going to help the attendance, I would think. It's a big Texas market. November. It ain't cold. It ain't hot. Well, maybe it is hot. It ain't raining. I think something like that would really work. It doesn't have to be a Texas. Hell, do it at Dover. Somewhere that doesn't have 2 races to where that final race, and don't do it at a road course. Don't come in here and try to, let's have it at the Roval. Let's have it at the Indy road course. No, bullshit. Do it at something that is more traditional to what the series runs, but maybe not where you've already been. It's these one-date tracks. Maybe some of these tracks, because at some point, I do think that the NASCAR Cup Series is going to go to where there's going to be a lot of tracks that maybe only have one date, and maybe this system works. And I don't know. Everybody has ideas. Excuse me. Sorry, I've had a cold. I don't know what the hell's going on around here. Kevin Harvick had the really good idea on his show to where the one thing that I took out of Harvick's thing is I truly think that just to satisfy a lot of the negativity and a lot of the ridicule and ideas, I truly think that the regular season champion needs to have a say in this. And I keep seeing the NASCAR regular season champion needs to have a say in this. Well, he was in the Final Four, by the way, this year. It's like people, and this is where things get thrown around and ideas and people say things, and it's like people are acting like Kyle Larson was the season champion. Well, he didn't get to race at Charlotte. Tyler Reddick was the regular season champion. He was in the Final Four. He raced his way in, just like Joey Logano and all the other two dudes did as well. So, but the regular season if you're able to be the point leader after 26 races on this tour, you do need to be in that championship round, in my opinion, because you have won the race of attrition, and you have worked this system, the regular system, the way that it needs to be worked. Joey Logano and Penske, and Ryan Blaney and Penske, for that matter, worked the system extremely well. Look at the way that Ryan Blaney won the championship last year. We didn't quite have all of the outcry that we're seeing this year. Didn't do it quite the same way that Joey Logano did, but it wasn't that far off. Had to race his way in. He absolutely did not set the tour on fire throughout the year. But it goes back to the point that I made at the very beginning right here, is that it all depends on who is accomplishing the action. That's the biggest part of this. That's what determines if the system truly is that bad, is who's executing the end result, which in this case was Joey Logano. Had Ryan Blaney executed the result that Joey Logano just did, I don't think that we'd be seeing quite this. I really don't. I truly believe that we don't. And that's just personal preference. So what's going to happen here? I have no clue. I don't know. I don't know if this changes. I don't know if anything, if it changes in 2 years. I don't know what the playoff thing is going to be, but I am fully, I mean, the playoff system is not going away. We're not going back to the traditional 36 race season, to where it's just, you just race the thing out, because race fans these days they're not going to behoove having events at the end of the year that essentially mean nothing. And you're not going to have bigger, I mean, a bigger thing right now, and even more important these days, with the dollars that are being dealt around right now, with the millions of dollars that corporations are throwing around for title sponsorships and getting their names on these moving billboards that we call race cars. Sponsors aren't going to continue to drop that kind of money, and TV providers are not going to be putting that type of money. Advertisers are not going to be putting that type of money for a 36 race season that could essentially come down to 5 or 6 races that essentially mean it's just a race. And while a lot of us are very happy having, watching just a race, the drama and the buildup and the crowning of a champion and the controversy and the different things, that's what's going to sell right now. That's what's going to put eyeballs right now. And what has to happen, unless you radically change the schedule somehow to where you're not. We just raced the championship in Phoenix on an NFL Sunday. If you're able to do this when you're not competing with the monster that is the National Football League, and competing for TV dollars and TV revenue and rating share and all of that, I mean, that's one thing. But when you're playing in the midst of football season, you have to have something more that's going to draw an audience in, other than just the race. I mean, there's got to be storylines, and there's got to be things that are going to pull people in. We regular race fans have been doing this forever. Look, I remember the 1979 Cup season. It was when you had Waltrip that had that amazing lead over Richard Petty, and Waltrip found a way to beat himself, and Richard Petty wins championship number 6. And those championships in the 80s. Go back and look at those. I mean, the Daryl and Bobby, RIP, those were battles to where during the season they were really good, but when they got to the end, they weren't all that great. I mean, the 85 season, to watch Bill Elliott implode and essentially just let Daryl Waltrip talk him out of that championship in the 80s right there. Once Earnhardt goes over to RCR and they're winning these massive championships. And things didn't really get good until the early 90s, and of course the 92. I don't give a damn what point system you have. It's going to be really hard to eclipse what happened in 1992, but that's an anomaly. I mean, as you got into the mid 90s, there really wasn't anything that got really dramatic or had intrigue until you got to the playoff system. So you're going to have that for a lot of reasons, whether you want to have it or not. How it gets reconfigured, I don't know. But this is where it's it's a car that you're dealing with that you have to figure out the intricacies on how to make this thing help you find the dramatics. And I'm sure that NASCAR will continue to do that. But the bottom line is Logano's our champion. And the other part about it is, with Logano being the champion, I mean that's a good spokesperson for the sport. I mean, say what you want, whether you're a fan of that dude's or not. I mean, the guy is a great leader. The guy's a great leader for NASCAR and NASCAR Cup racing as a face and a voice, and he will represent the sport well throughout, up into 2025. So that's kind of my thought on that. A very long observation on just different things of what is causing this. I have no solution. I have ideas just like everybody else. But what does the sanctioning body do? I don't know. It's totally up to them. They'll tweak on it for a little bit, I think. And at some point, maybe it gets overhauled. At some point, maybe it doesn't. But if you're holding out hope to get back to the old Winston Cup thing, don't hold your breath, because that is not the way it's going to go. This has been Dirty Air. My name is Rodney Rodriguez. You guys feel free to check in with me anytime. You can follow me on X at the Rodney R. And here is actually the Dirty Air show email address. You can shoot me over something there. If you'd like to have a conversation, we can talk racing anytime you want. Pleasure has been mine. Please subscribe, like, share this YouTube feed. Also, if you're checking in on an audio podcast, please feel free to subscribe there as well. Additional content at RodneyRodriguezSports.com. We're into the off season. We're into a lighter season. Dirty Air rolls on. No breaks here. Shows take breaks. I don't do anything else other than sports. I don't do anything else other than racing. So I'm not going to take a break. I'll be with you all the way through 2025. Thanks for checking the show out, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great rest of the week.